Okay, so AIM 3.2, or what are the new inventions and developments taking place during the Industrial Revolution? And also we're going to take a look at, kind of what their impact is also. So away we go. All right, production. I'll give you a second here. All right, so this graph that we're looking at here is an index of U.S. industrial production. And I understand that this is world history. Why are we looking at a graph of U.S. industrial production? But I think suffice it to say that this, although this is for the United States, I think that we will find a similar looking graph for any of really the developed nations. The only difference really is just time frame, right? When things are happening. So while the Industrial Revolution starts in Great Britain and the U.S. is soon to follow thereafter, a lot of the other developed nations of Europe will kind of get up to speed pretty quickly also. So basically the big reason for this industrial production increase, and you could see how steep that curve gets, right, on the graph, is that's because of new inventions and industrial processes. So everything always comes down to tools and techniques. That's really what it's about. When we point to big improvements in efficiency and production, you can really point to, is it the new tools or is it the new techniques? And the big, huge leaps in production and efficiency always come when you have both new tools and new techniques. So that's the important thing to understand. And these will boost efficiency. And we'll talk about what efficiency means exactly in a little bit. All right, new slide. So this is really about inventions, right? So during this time, people are inventing new things at like seriously record-breaking pace. So you can see the section of the graph that we're really kind of concerned about is, we said the second half of the 1800s. So here's 1850, and then, here's 1900 over here. So, in this 50-year stretch here, you see this really steep incline. This is like breakneck speed at which people are applying for new patents. Now, what a patent is an intellectual property. When you invent something, you file for what's called a patent, and that patent basically is a legal kind of thing that says this invention is your intellectual property, and anyone who wants to use it needs to essentially pay you for the right to use it so you can monetize it. That's really what it's about. So you could see the pace at which kind of all of these inventions and the patents for the inventions are coming through. It's much faster than at any other time in history. The only other comparable time is if you look 1985, 1990 up until like 2010. I know you guys weren't alive, but this is basically the tech bubble. This is internet and a lot of kind of computer-based technologies. The microprocessor, that's what's being invented during this time. So all the patents that come through with those kinds of inventions, this is when cell phones are happening. This is when computers are getting smaller and smaller, and video game systems and LCD televisions, and all those kinds of things are happening here that kind of rely on the microprocessor, just to kind of give you an idea of what we're looking at. So more inventions than ever before, super, super fast pace of invention for sure. Okay, last slide. Okay, as far as what the state will ask you with regard to the Industrial Revolution, if they ask you about a particular invention, it's probably in reference to the spinning jenny. The spinning jenny is the world's first kind of real impactful invention with regard to Industrial Revolution. And this kind of revolutionizes the way clothing is made. Before this, all the clothing is hand-stitched, takes hours upon hours upon hours. You don't have a wardrobe, you have like two shirts. You have like three pants, two pairs of pants. You know what I mean? It's like that. So this kind of changes the way all of that works. Um, you know, as far as productivity. So also you have to keep in mind what we were saying about money, right? And cost. A shirt that is made by one person, that takes them a week to make is going to cost a lot of money. But when one person can make 10 shirts in an hour with this machine, the cost of those things comes down. So now everyone doesn't have two shirts. They can afford to have 10 shirts or something like that. You know what I mean? So that's the important part here. I heard a question come through. I just want to address it real quick. Productivity doesn't necessarily equal safety or morality, though, right? Well, no, and we'll get to that. So the almighty dollar is king. So productivity will happen at the expense of safety. And I'm assuming you meant mortality, not morality, although I'm sure that's applicable also. This is really about, they're not so, the people that are in power, and we'll go over this more later in the unit, the people that are in power are interested in profit and safety measures and things like that. Cut into profit because it costs money to be safe, essentially. And if you're spending money on being safe, that means you're taking home less profit. So, child labor and work conditions. Yeah, that's not a factor either. We're essentially, going to be talking about slave labor, child labor. Kids as young as 4, 5, 6 years old working in factories. That's a factor also. And again, it's because you maximize profit. Okay, I could pay a 6-year-old to, crank this thing all day long for 8 hours a day, and pay him less than I would have to pay an adult or something like that, right? So I'm maintaining the productivity with child labor, but it's not costing me as much, so my profit is maximized. We see this at work today, and I'm guilty of this, and so is probably anybody walking around in this building right now. Nike, for example, those sneakers are not assembled in America. They're assembled in Asia somewhere, where they pay someone very, very, very little money we're talking cents a day, not even a dollar in some cases. And sometimes it is child labor. You know what I mean? And Nike is paying those people such low wages because they can get the job done for less money. So this is really about productivity, and that pendulum will swing. It starts out as kind of maximizing profit being the priority, and the rights of the workers, and empowering safety and health, and some of those considerations will become more of a factor later on. But in the beginning, it's very, very ugly and results in the exploitation of the worker at the expense of safety, and a lot of other things too. So I hope that answers your question, but for sure, that's definitely the deal.